Michigan gubernatorial candidate Abdul ElSayed just received a massive endorsement. Now, on his Twitter account, Senator Bernie Sanders, a little known senator from Vermont, officially endorsed Syed. Now, Syed, of course, is the former Detroit public health chief for, as I said, Detroit, and also a doctor, and he is running for governor of Michigan. Now, I live in Michigan, so I think this is actually fantastic news. Now, let me give you the tweet here. Sanders said, "I'm proud to endorse Abdul ElSayed for governor of Michigan. As governor, Dr. ElSayed will fight for a government in Lansing that represents all the people and not just wealthy special interests." He also said, under Abdul ElSayed's leadership, Michigan can help lead the nation in guaranteeing health care for all through a Medicare for all single-payer type system, tuition-free public colleges and universities, a minimum wage of $15 per hour, and strong environmental protections. Now, on the healthcare for all through a Medicare for all system, that would actually be through a state system. Now, that is interesting. In fact, I'm going to get into that a little bit later, and then, of course, into his competition. But first, the response from ElSayed says, "I'm honored to have the support of Bernie Sanders and thankful that he has recognized there is only one progressive running for governor of Michigan. I look forward to carrying his progressive mantle forward to solve problems for Michiganders as governor." So, now, if you're not following this election, you should be. Because it's actually really, really important. Michigan is an interesting state. Of course, we used to be a blue state. Now we're a red state. Donald Trump won Michigan in the general election in 2016. However, Bernie Sanders pulled out a surprise upset win against Hillary Clinton in the 2016 Democratic primaries. So you don't know what way Michigan is going to go. And look, living here in Michigan for my entire life, I've seen a lot of terrible things happen to our state. Of course, happen to manufacturing, things that happen to Flint, which still does not have clean water. We saw a lot of gentrification, jobs pulling out, things like that. So Michigan has a lot of issues. And right now, under Republican control, none of those issues are being addressed. So obviously, we need to do something. Now, in the Democratic primary, which comes up August 7th, so, by the way, on that, all hands on deck, man. So, I'm going to give you some information at the end of this video on how you can help. But first, we have three candidates. We've got the establishment candidate, Gretchen Whitmer. Now, she's your corporate, kind of Hillary Clinton-ish Democrat. And she calls herself a progressive, but really she's more of the centrist position. Better than the Republicans for sure, but she is the center, establishment corporate Democrat. She takes money from dark money groups and all that. Now, you also have ElSayed, of course, who is the true progressive in the race. And then you have self-made businessman Sri Danadar. Now, according to The Intercept, which has done great coverage on this, ElSayed actually has hired veteran Sanders organizers to run his campaign. And he has crafted policy seemingly designed to appeal to the senator's supporters. In particular, ElSayed's uniquely detailed state-level single-payer plan sets him apart from his primary opponents, who have either declined to support a Michigan single-payer plan or have offered support in name only. Now, of course, Whitmer is not in favor of single-payer, but Tanadar, well, he's kind of an interesting person there. That I have some reservations on. Now, going back to The Intercept, a different article, Jelani wrote that he talked to people. He talked to Tanadar, and he found him. Well, basically, he was a little skeptical that he was as progressive as he claimed. In fact, investigations by The Intercept have revealed many facts which cast doubt on Tanadar's progressive branding. He had donated thousands of dollars to Senator John McCain's presidential campaign. He was spotted clapping and nodding approvingly at a Marco Rubio presidential rally, and several Michigan political consultants have claimed that Tanadar once consulted them about possibly running in this race as a Republican. Well, now wait a minute. You can't run as a Republican and then vote for Senator John McCain and go to Marco Rubio rallies. I mean, I guess you could go to Marco Rubio rallies, but nodding and clapping along doesn't seem all that progressive. Now, furthermore, Jelani decided to sit down with Tanadar and have a conversation. Now, the candidate made it clear, he wrote, if elected, he would push the federal government to establish a single-payer plan. So that just kind of shows you the popularity. If somebody like Tanadar, who considered running as a Republican, is looking at the polls on single-payer and going, people like this plan, maybe I'm going to run on it, right? And who knows? Maybe he actually is in favor of it. Well, let's see, okay? Because there's more. Now, when asked what he would do if a national single-payer plan had failed, Tanadar struggled to offer a viable state-level solution. Now, when Jelani pressed him on what a Michigan state single-payer system would look like, Tanadar's answer, he writes, reflected a troubling ignorance about the difference between federal and state programs. He said, quote, I would expand the Medicare and allow people to buy into it. I will expand the Medicare. But wait, Medicare is a federal program. Now, look, if you're talking about Medicaid, well, okay. Expanding Medicaid to everybody, that would be a pretty good plan. Okay. But he put a qualifier in there and said, I will allow people to buy into it. Okay, so first of all, he references a federal program, not a state program, and then says, I'll let people buy into it. Well, that's not Medicare for all. That's a public option. That is like a state-level Medicare X, which is what the Democratic Party has floated as a public option. Now, if you don't know the difference between a single payer and a public option, then you're probably not as progressive as you claim to be. So that is a big strike against Tanadar. Okay. Now, I've got more. Jelani asks, and so you're fine putting everyone in Michigan into one government plan and not having private insurance in Michigan? Because that's what a single payer plan is. And throughout the entire interview, he's like, I'm in favor of single payer. I'm in favor of Medicare for all. Here's his answer. Quote, I'm not saying that. Now, the follow-up is, but that's what single payer is, though, by definition, right? Tanadar's answer, it is. I'm for single payer. It's a complex system. It needs to be all worked out. We need to get experts. We need to draft a proposal and some great numbers of details in it. And all of that needs leadership and a commitment by the leadership. And I'm not coming in with a solution to every complex problem Michigan has, but I'm coming in with a commitment to provide leadership. Turns out I don't actually have a plan. I mean, I want to expand the Medicare, but I have no plan. But I can provide leadership. Well, that's not what you're saying. You're saying I want a Medicare for all system when you don't even describe accurately what a Medicare for all single payer system is. That is government sponsored insurance that takes over for all private insurance. Now, of course, you could have insurance companies play a very small role in maybe selling supplemental plans, but it all depends. It depends on what kind of system that you want to set up. But a true single-payer plan involves no private insurance. So, now, ElSayed, of course, a lot different. He actually does have a plan. Jelani writes, ElSayed has a detailed strategy for how to accomplish a real single-payer system. In fact, last month he released a plan to establish something called Michicare. Now, Michicare would levy payroll and business taxes to establish a state-funded public coverage for all Michigan residents. That actually is single-payer. Here, we're going to tax you, and then we're going to use that money to cover everybody with insurance. Now, ElSayed, he's like, yes, we're going to raise taxes on you. But then you're actually going to save money In fact, he estimates that the average Michigan family earning an income of $48,432 would save around $5,000 a year in costs by switching to Michicare from their private health insurance provider. So he actually has a detailed plan. Unlike, of course, what you have with Shree, and of course, Whitmer has basically no plan for single payer or public option. Just like, hey, I helped expand Medicaid. Great. Yeah, that helped a lot of people. Over 600,000 Michiganders. Wonderful. But what are you going to do for the people who don't have insurance, or who have insurance but can't afford their deductible? Or they have junk insurance plans. What are you going to do to solve the for-profit insurance problem with rising premiums and people that don't have enough money to afford those premiums? What are you going to do for that? Nothing. Because she doesn't have a plan, because she is the status quo candidate. She is the establishment candidate. So, now, here's the thing. There's a problem here. We know who the true progressive is, but most of the state doesn't. Shree actually is leading in the polls over ElSayed. Now again, Shree says, I'm the most progressive in the race. Look at my plan. I support single payer. I supported Bernie Sanders. I support all this. He's actually leading in the polls over Tanadar with 17% of the vote. ElSayed has about 12% according to polls. And of course, Whitmer, unfortunately, is leading with about 39% of the vote. Now, the Sanders endorsement might actually help. And I'm hoping that it does. But there's not a lot of time. The primary is actually August 7th. So it's coming up really, really fast. Now, not only has Sanders endorsed ElSayed, but also Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's coming to Flint, Grand Rapids, and Detroit, all of the state to go and stump for ElSayed. You also have endorsements from the Justice Democrats. You have Our Revolution backing ElSayed. He's got to get more traction. And the reason that he doesn't get traction is because, look, Tanadar and Whitmer both take dark money. Well, okay, Whitmer takes dark money. Tanadar does not take dark money, but he's self-funded because he's a millionaire. So he's very wealthy. He can afford to pay for political ads. So they go and they flood the airwaves with their political ads, and ElSayed does not have that money to be able to do that. So that explains why ElSayed is actually behind, even though he's got the most. He's not only the most progressive, but he actually has some of the better plans, and actually a way to make those plans into fruition. He's actually serious about Medicare for all, unlike the others. So let me tell you how you can help, right? First you can go to map.abdulformichigan.com, put in your zip code, and figure out how you can phone bank. So what they need is volunteers, okay? So go there, volunteer to phone bank, knock on doors. They're trying to get out the vote, and it's not money that's going to do it. It's people power. And so if you live in Michigan, go and sign up. Find a way for you to phone bank and become a volunteer and help Abdul ElSayed, because I believe he is the true progressive in the race. They're also looking for, and I'm going to have links in this, okay? So if you want to find a field office or a volunteer, or be a volunteer, or canvas or phone bank or wherever, I will have a link here in the description. So it's called Knock Your Block, the plan to go and knock on doors. So go sign up for that, so we can actually have a true progressive that can win. And for those of you who say, but he's so far behind, just remember, Bernie Sanders in the polls was 30 points behind, and he won Michigan by 2 points. One of the biggest upsets of the 2016 election. If Bernie could do it, why not Abdul? Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.